Christmas Day 2014. I know a real laugh when I hear one. I heard that laugh again, but I was too busy peeling spuds and basting the turkey to investigate. It wasn't his normal laugh. It had the wrong tone, as if he'd laugh for effect, just for show. Uncle Jason, hands everywhere except where they should be, very kindly asked me if he could help in the kitchen, knowing that I'd refuse, but at least he would have offered. I heard Auntie Sybil giggle. She only giggles when she's nervous. It's as if I knew there was an avalanche coming, and I had no desire to sound the alarm, because that would mean that something was very wrong. It's supposed to be a time of coming together and presents and overeating. Why wasn't I doing all my usual covering up with any embarrassing family matter that was likely to go pear-shaped? Normally, I would hustle people into corners, jobs and conversation, but I carried on prepping. Aunt Maggie came out to check on me. She could see I was busy. Could she help with anything? I told her she could make the potato salad if she wished. She looked at her painted nails. A drink was calling. That's right. I will always be relied upon to buy, prepare, cook, clear up, arrange. But I suppose I only have myself to blame. Just for once, I wanted them to notice the ice cracking and splitting, for them to say, "Isn't something shifting and about to fall on us all?" Why was it only me who saw the warning signs? At the dinner table, when we all pulled crackers, he was more curious about the red currant jelly, poking it with his knife, and he had a look like he was abroad and didn't have a return ticket. Auntie Sybil looked everywhere else but in his direction. Food was eaten, strike that, shovelled in, and he laughed at all the wrong things. The cat licking itself, a bauble that got knocked off the tree. Auntie Sybil giggled. The meal felt surreal, a Mad Hatter's tea party. I kept offering him food, hardly touching my own, and Nana just kept glaring at me. I leaned in. "You okay? Everything all right?" I asked my husband, hoping another family member would pull me aside and say, "He's not right, you know," and I would agree, glad that someone was being vigilant. And what would we do about calling out the doctor on Christmas Day? He nodded to my question but wouldn't look me in the eye. He was in there somewhere, my husband, the person I loved who hated get-togethers, especially putting up with distant family. "They're just a pack of vultures," he would say. I missed him carving a turkey and keeping Uncle Jason occupied. Uncle Jason helped himself to seconds. Silence. Awkward plate scraping. I really hated it. Hated that no one would mention that something was wrong with him. God, I hate being English. I hate this yearly ritual. Hate the way people who are supposed to be human act inhumanely. I was the one who made the phone call after I'd virtually thrown the Christmas pudding and cream on the table for them to help themselves. They all looked hurt. The first psychiatrist said it was a psychotic breakdown and that it was common, really common. So common that it was dismissed as if it were a cold. Seeing someone you love so broken. At times he was florid and knew he was in trouble. Other times he ranted and screamed. It had obviously built up, undetected, the weight of it all. Something had to give, and it didn't take much to trigger it. Just a feeling of being trapped. Multiply that by 300% pressure from work, then combine it with a purgatory of Christmas celebrations. For once I didn't care about my relatives as I waited for the second psychiatrist to come out on Christmas Day. He was apparently at some fancy do, eating his own Christmas dinner. Apparently one psychiatrist wasn't enough. You need two to section someone in England. The first psychiatrist made great pains to tell me that had we lived in Scotland, my husband would already have been whisked off to hospital. I witnessed my relatives acting worse than strangers. He had ruined their day with his abandonment of normal social behaviour. How dares somebody be ill on such an important day as this? How selfish. It took the second psychiatrist 4 hours to reach us. I told the relatives the party was over and they should all go home. Next Christmas is going to be just me and my husband. I travelled with him in the ambulance. He was admitted to St Mary's Hospital. I wouldn't call it drowning. It's just that the air had been flat-packed and was harder to access, that's all. It was worse than an avalanche. With an avalanche, it would be quick. There would be an end and a chance to be dug out, to embrace life again, because you so very nearly lost it. Everyone in the secure wing acted as though it wasn't an avalanche. A psychotic breakdown was normal, an everyday thing like an itch, or no worse than a fainting fit. The nurses chuckled at my describing it as an avalanche. No, it was more like a slight slip on the rocks, where your balance is immediately regained after a short break. Avalanches are described by their size, their destructive potential, composition, dynamics. After all, for it to be an avalanche, there would need to be hundreds of tons of snow, ice and rock rapidly falling down a mountainside. It would be a sudden arrival or an overwhelming quantity. There would be a mechanical failure in the snowpack, often visible just before the event occurs. Gravity, gravy, red currant jelly, potato salad, cat licking itself, the Christmas bauble on the floor, selfish relatives being overworked. No, apparently it couldn't have been an avalanche. Christmas Day could never be an avalanche. Kreska